I think we can say that probably national shows that are not too expensive with a strong digital base might rebound quickly.
Welcome to the latest issue of EW Sessions. I'm Paul Woodward, the guest editor currently of Exhibition World, and I'm really delighted to be joined here by Eric Everard. Eric and I have worked together over a number of years, particularly when he was president of UFI. So Eric, welcome. Really lovely to see you here. We were lucky enough to meet the other day in Rotterdam when UFI finally met in person in Rotterdam. And it would be great if we could pick up some of those things that we started discussing there. So firstly, perhaps if you could give us a sense of where you think we are now. I mean, after almost 2 years of massive disruption to our business, where is it now? What are you seeing?
Hello, Paul. Nice to be with you tonight. Where we are, I think you cannot give one answer to this question because first, the situations are different in every geographies, and the situation is evolving almost daily. It's not that we can say that it's over, I fear. It's going to be bumpy for probably a relatively long term. I'm not a strong believer that the situation will be over within X weeks or months. I fear it's going to last longer. A situation that is unsecure, that is bumpy, because we can see on continental Europe that even if populations are vaccinated, let's say at 70–75%, still the new cases of COVID are rising every day and are alarming. So I can only imagine that before the entire world is vaccinated at that level, and then perhaps for a second time, a third time, because you know the COVID, the vaccine efficiency decreases with time, it could last long. The efficiency of the vaccine, the density of vaccination in every country. We're talking here sometimes huge economies. You take the US, Brazil, Europe, China, India, huge population. If you need to vaccinate them 3 times before, and at 95% before the COVID is gone, it will take some time. So I would have said probably 2 months ago to you, it's over in Europe. You can do shows everywhere. I fear that in a couple of days or weeks, we might hear, we are now 10th of November, we might hear that some countries are closing again in Europe, which of course would generate a situation that is becoming highly insecure for the entire industry if this happens. But I fear it could happen when you look at the rising numbers. So that's one thing. The second thing is in which field should you be better active in? Probably national shows, regional shows will be easier to organize simply from a simple logistic point of view, because exhibitors and visitors do not need to travel past borders or continents or travel over intercontinental, their goods, etc. So the more international the show, the more I think the impact of the crisis will be important and long. The more the show is national, and that's good news for the UK shows, which are often national, for example. Okay, they will suffer from less continental exhibitors, but they will probably they'll be fine. It's more difficult if you are a German organizer counting on many foreign visitors and exhibitors. I fear you're going to be impacted for a longer period. So same for China, that has a big internal market. But what about the foreign visitors and exhibitors? When will they come back? Especially look at our rates here in Europe now. If 2 months ago you could have dreamt that you could welcome visitors, exhibitors in China soon, I doubt that Americans or Chinese authorities would let massively visitors and exhibitors come over from Europe with the rates we have. So you see a situation one day is not the same couple of weeks later. And I fear in the coming years, this is what we will have to face.
Absolutely. And it's, as you say, that uncertainty has been such a challenge for everybody in the industry. I mean, from what you say, though, in terms of national, regional events being particularly well positioned, that would imply that your own business is particularly well positioned, because the Easyfairs concept, certainly as it originally evolved, was around sort of very focused, smaller, regional, local events, wasn't it? So, I mean, do you think, is that still the case? And are you feeling perhaps more comfortable than some of your counterparts in other businesses, do you think?
Well, I don't want to judge the businesses of my colleagues, but what is sure, there were three things that were characterizing Easyfairs for sure. It is first, all-in offer. The average price that an exhibitor pays to us, including his stand construction, is 7,000 euros. So that's the cost of his participation. That's the risks in uncertain times that the exhibitor is taking by taking the decision to exhibit it on 1 hour show. Second, so it's cost effective for the exhibitor, so the risk is low. Second characteristic, we do national or regional shows, and when we say regional, it's because we believe the industry is regional and not in this capital city, but often we do national shows that are not small or, but they are vertical, targeted, and national. That's certainly a DNA of Easyfairs. And thirdly, we are relatively advanced when it comes to generating digital revenues and being digitalized ourselves. That are the three characteristics: low cost, national, digitally advanced. And if you now look at the crisis and who could resist better or rebound faster, I think we can say that probably national shows that are not too expensive with a strong digital base might rebound quickly. And that's what we see since 1st of September in our business, where we are back. We have run 30 shows in Europe since 1st of September, so in 2 months' time. And we were back roughly 100%. If compared to 2019, the last full year, we were back, and we are back. The question is, will certain countries close again that we can do nothing against? For the rest, our fiscal year, which is from 1st of July to end of June, is still looking like the best year ever. Can you imagine that? So it is well, again, with the reserve that some countries might close, then it's going to be bumpy again. But so yes, the intrinsic characteristic of Easyfairs would probably help us in those tough times.
Well, congratulations. Let's hope that's true. You are mainly focused on what I would sort of think of as fairly sort of traditional industrial areas in the markets that you serve by industry. Have you seen a lot of difference between the different industries that you serve, or is this story that you've been describing similar across all of the industries that you serve?
No, I think it is similar across all industries. We indeed are active in traditional industries and are very proud of, like the processing industry, the manufacturing industry, the packaging, transport, logistics. But look, all things you need on a day-to-day basis to have an economy that turns. And we say often that we choose sectors that will still be there in 30 years. That's one of the criteria that we choose when we decide to enter a certain space. We want long-term long-lasting sectors and if possible, growing sectors, of course. But we are also active in agriculture, in medical, in building, in some IT shows. So it's a very diverse portfolio of shows. And we don't see major differences when you compare industry by industry, and when it comes to the strength of the rebound. What is a big difference really is when we have international exhibitors, because we have some, it's not the strength of Easyfairs, because we are, as I said, more national show organizer, but we have, for certain shows, we have, of course, exhibitors coming from China, America, India, etc. And they are not there at all. They're almost not. So simply it's zero. Thanks God, it's 5% of certain shows and not 30. But that we will need to replace them if we want to keep our size. That is more. The more international, the more throughout the sectors we feel it, more than sector differentiation.
Yeah,
that's interesting. What you have also is it's weird. Certain sectors were heavily hit negatively by the Corona crisis, so they are suffering when it comes to airways, travel industry, etc. So there you might have some hospitality. You might have some difficulties to fill the shows, so you need to fight more. On the other hand, other industries are turning like hell, are doing extremely well, which also is a problem because they don't need an exhibition. So the two extreme, and you can see that there is probably 15% of the economy which suffered dramatically, and 15% who did extremely well. And those two extremes, there you are. It's more difficult to sell because either they suffer or they don't need your exhibition right now because they cannot follow and cannot produce.
A lucky position to be in. Eric, to pick up on the third leg of your three-legged stool, which is sort of this structure for Easyfairs that you mentioned in terms of being advanced in digital. I mean, you were already actually heavily invested and I think quite advanced before everything happened, but obviously everybody has been forced to go accelerate the process of going down the digital road. What lessons do you think we have learned so far in terms of what works and what does not work in terms of the way that we can apply digital technologies to our exhibitions world?
Well, at Easyfairs, we have immediately said a couple of weeks after the beginning of the pandemic in March 2020 that we needed to run as many tests as possible online. So we have organized 150 events during the last 12 months, online events, hybrid events. So it's a lot. It's a lot, and it gives also a lot of results. Some are positive and other negative. So basically, what we could see is that, you know, why exhibition exists. They are transactional media, educational media, networking, and entertainment, and for certain exhibitors, image media. So it is, but from a visitor point of view, the image is less important. Why is the visitor coming is the four first. So what we could discover is that to learn the educational reason to attend a show works pretty well online, which means that the congress business, the conference business could shift and become online with the discovery that 50% of the audience we never met before. They were not even in our databases. And they are younger, a little bit younger audience than the traditional audience. It's a digital audience, a new audience. So it's quite interesting, but it's costly because we need to produce content. It's rarely paying content, and it's very interesting, of course, for visitors that get free information. When it comes to networking and to entertainment, have a beer, you know, party, award ceremony, or the transactional part, the networking transactional, those two main reasons for an exhibitor to exhibit or a visitor to visit, that was very bad online. It was very weak, even with the most sophisticated platforms. And if you do 150 events, you have the time to learn after every event, improve, a little bit, etc. So it's error. And at the end, you think you master it, and still it does not work. It's very difficult to have an efficient transactional or networking event. So that was the lesson, and this is probably why the rebound of our business was so strong. It was an online fatigue. There were people were fed up all those Zoom meetings, online meetings, and they wanted to meet physically again, taste product, have a glass, together, network, like we did at UFI in Rotterdam. What an energy in the room! You can never have that online. So that were the main conclusions. Then you could ask, for whom are you making those online events? Is it for visitors? Are the visitors your community? But many shows are exhibitor-oriented shows. And exhibitors are not per se a community. Take the packaging shows. There are many packaging shows in the world. Every country has a packaging show. Packaging is not a community. Food producing, I have a fast-moving consumer good factory, and I need to improve my production processes. That's a community. Factory managers is a community, but there is no factory manager show. That does not exist. It's either automation shows or industry 4.0 or maintenance or packaging or processing. That's the shows that they are not communities. So there is a total mismatch between what our shows are, the name of our shows in general, and the community we serve. They are not uniform communities. So we need to have a totally different approach if we want to make community online events. It's a revolution for the sector. And that will not be done in 5 minutes. It's a vision you need for the next 5 to 10 years.
Exactly. Stepping away slightly from the actual digital events, which didn't work in the ways that you've described, there is a sort of an underlying stream of data business, though, that a lot of people have been looking at, sort of year-round digital businesses that we can build around our physical events. I mean, do you see that as potentially an important source of revenue for a company such as yours in the future?
Undoubtedly, the ability to put learning machines on a data lake of a mass of data that you can collect is I'm opening an open door. Is a nice potential for every show organizer. What you need is two things. You need a data lake. That means that you need a lot of data on what I want, Eric Everard, what you, Paul, what you want. Why are you visiting this show? What are you really looking for? And which data do we have as organizers today? Not a lot. So how do we generate more data? Is it by generating a community platform where the visitor interacts constantly all the year, and that brings you information that makes us organizer more intelligent, and we have more data, and we can put learning machines on big data. And the second thing we will need is this intelligence on artificial intelligence, those engineers, data scientists, which are not yet working in our companies, not in a lot at least. It's a totally new type of functions in the company. So we really, for the moment, it's very early days for our industry, and we will need to have to generate the ability to generate a lot of data and hire bright people to do something smart with those data. And when I say something smart, it's don't forget why we exist. Paul, we do exist because we serve visitors and we serve exhibitors. So it's not to sell quickly like we did 20 years ago, the data of a visitor. No, it is to improve the visitor experience, the return on time for the visitors, the return on investment for the exhibitor, and do that respecting the GDPR rules, etc. So it's again a big challenge for the industry. So if you add the challenges that the industry will face in the coming years, it's quite stretched.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it is clearly a big challenge that nobody is entirely around yet. Setting aside the digital side for now, and perhaps going back to look at the business more holistically, what excites you as the CEO of Easyfairs in terms of new opportunities? I mean, where are you looking and say what is really do you see as the most exciting opportunities in terms of types of events, type of industries served, or parts of the world?
Well, we are today at least an organizer active in Europe. So for me, growing in economies where I still have a small subsidiary is very important. Secondly, we are entrepreneurs. A lot of exhibition organizers are entrepreneurs, and we see many opportunities popping up, either different formats or new topics or verticalization of industry. We are in a world of more and more vertical specialized shows, so that if you add all this, it generates tons of show ideas. Sustainability also is a big opportunity for an organizer like Easyfairs, which reuses its carpet systematically. The stand building is reused. Sometimes it remains in our hall. It does not even leave the hall. So the stands are constantly dismantled and rebuilt, but they remain in the same hall. Imagine the saving in carbon footprint. And then you add the online events level on our 200 events, and what you mentioned, the digital opportunities. Even if I said that it's tough, but it will be for the ones ready to invest in those technologies, those new talents. It will bring a lot of opportunities, I'm sure. Our problem at Easyfairs is to choose between all those opportunities. It's not to look which one we could find because we see nothing. To give you an example, only this year we are in a tough year, right? It's the first year after COVID. We are launching 26 new shows in Europe only, and we have another row of 25 which is ready to be launched as of 1st of July 2022. So I think it will remain a very dynamic industry. A digital world needs physical meetings at certain time. The industries needs to meet, and it's very complementary, by the way, in a more digital virtual world. Look here, we're having a digital interview. You are in London, I'm in Brussels, but once a year, thank God, we want to meet. We want, and we event organizer, we are ideally placed to be this place, the reason to come together, to have the media spotting on the industry, the journalists and all stakeholders posting on the social media, etc. So we have the ability to generate the buzz for each industry every year. If we capitalize properly on our strengths and the opportunities, I think there is no doubt that we have a brilliant future, even if we're going to go through 1 or 2 years of bumpy roads.
Absolutely. Now, Eric, in generating that buzz, the industry has overall been a very profitable one over the last many years. One of the discussions I know that's going on in a lot of budget meetings that are going on right now is looking at margins going forward. There's big pressure on prices all around, and yet most organizers, probably after the last 2 years, are not feeling terribly confident about being able to put their own prices up. We've also got all these big investments in digital, human resources costs going up, et cetera, et cetera. So do you think we are entering a period of tighter margins and less profitable exhibition companies, or do you think they can still be as profitable as they used to be?
I think you're right. We might very short term enter in a period where there is some pressure on margin, but I see it more because you cannot increase your prices when you deliver 50% less visitors than the previous event pre-COVID, or minus 30% or minus 10%. No, you cannot. It's not moral. So you have to be patient and say, okay. But then after that, I think we are an industry that has a certain pricing power due to the fact that no industry likes to exhibit twice a year for a given industry in a given region. They want their annual event or their event every 2 years or every 6 months. And they give us de facto an exclusivity on a sector for a region. You don't have a lot of competition in this industry. So that this exclusivity that the community is giving us also, as a consequence, generate a certain pricing power. And if now we have price increases on people building the stands, on catering, on sustainability, on technology, I am confident that if we do our job properly, we will be able to rise our prices with the inflation or above inflation and cover our costs. We have always done, and I don't see why the industry would change. The contrary, people will understand that we deliver them new digital tools. We make their lives easy. That's why we call Easyfairs. We're there to make the life of the exhibitor, the visitor easier. We're coming with technology to improve the matchmaking between visitors and exhibitors, or visitors and visitors. So we're going to deliver, those technology will deliver value, additional value to the stakeholders. Why wouldn't we be able to also price this additional value medium to long term? So I would say we have to be humble and modest short term because we are delivering less visitors because people are not attending. But medium long term, there is no reason why we wouldn't be able to price our services in such a way that we keep the characteristic of the industry from the past.
That's a very positive view, Eric. One final question, perhaps. We've talked about, by and large, where we are now, what's happened the last year or so, what's happening in the next year. What's your where would you like to see Easyfairs in 5 years' time? This is a business that you've built up in its current form over the last 15 years or so, but what about the next? So in 5 years' time, 2026, let's assume the best case on COVID, that it fades away, becomes normal, we can carry on doing our business in a normal way. What's your vision for Easyfairs in 5 years' time?
Look, before COVID, we were in a year where we would have done roughly 200 million euros revenue, roughly 200 events a year. In 5 years' time, my dream would be to have double this figure and to be more in the range of 400 million. And maybe not 400 events because our events are growing year after year, so maybe 300 events. So this will probably require us to be very active organically because we need to launch, but I told you that we are really doing this, and to continue to reinvest our profits into acquisitions or even to raise some money to make acquisitions and become bigger in certain regions in Europe. I think there will be a fundamental change when it comes to size. in our industry, because you are speaking rightly. You're asking questions about artificial intelligence, technology, digital. This costs a fortune to develop. And in the past, you could do a show, as you know, with a computer and a table. That was fine. There was no barrier to enter the exhibition field. Tomorrow, exhibitors will request the best technology available for all organizers. And this implies size so that you can make the investment. So I think there is also a sanity to grow in order, if you remain with this idea that you are there, we do exist to serve communities, to serve visitors and exhibitors, and we need to do this with the latest technology. There will be a premium to size, and it's going to be a healthy way to grow in order to be able to finance all the challenges that we are facing, that we will be facing in the future.
It sounds like a very exciting picture of the future, Eric. It also does not sound like a business that's immediately for sale. You know, there was a lot of talk in the industry a couple of years ago before COVID that the next big deal everybody was excited about was Easyfairs. So, but it doesn't sound from what you're saying as though that's in your 5-year vision for now.
Yeah, no, indeed, you're right. Easyfairs, if you know, is ranked at 18th in the top 20, but it is the biggest privately owned, strictly privately owned, and not listed in the stock market or owned by private equity or German city, the first privately owned company in the world. So yes, there were a lot of appetite from private equity. Yes, we received a lot of phone calls. Yes, it was difficult to say no at certain nice propositions. I think we love our company and this industry so much that we are in for the coming years. There is no debate. We could have sold the company. We haven't done it, and we will continue to grow the company in the near future.
That's a very exciting prospect and probably a good note on which to wrap up. Eric Everard, founder and CEO of Easyfairs, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Paul. It was a pleasure.